As the day progressed at the Southeast Customer Engagement Forum, one of the bank's customer care representatives, Princess Kowana, speaks on the essence of customer service in a development finance institution like the Bank of Industry and urged the SMEs represented to take a cue from the bank.
Handling customer complaints, there will always be issues. Customers will always complain. You complain to us. It's our duty to listen and rectify your complaint, assure you that we're here to serve you. That's the same amount of service you should provide to your customers. Whatever service I get the first time I visit your business determines if I'm coming back. So I'm a new customer. Nobody's told me about you. I'm just walking by. I come in. I'm treated shabbily. I would never go back there. I'm sure that's the same thing every one of us would do. It sticks. These people are terrible. They don't take their customers seriously. They take people for granted. Maybe they have too many customers. I might as well just go to someone else who needs me.
Next comes the presentation on a state-by-state analysis on loan documentation in loan administration and perfection challenges in the Southeast region by Mr. Austin Ikori.
To be eligible to access the Bank of Industry's loan facility, a borrower must belong to one out of these three categories. Must be a company, that is to say, a limited liability company or a PLC, as the case may be, a registered business name as an enterprise, or a cooperative society. Now, the nature of legal documentation for any particular loan facility will usually depend on a number of factors. For instance, the type of credit facility. While I was sitting there just now, I signed up a loan of 2 billion naira. Now, if you were asking for a loan of 5 million, obviously what the bank is going to request from you is different from that will request from that kind of a customer. Then the status of the borrower, whether it's a limited liability company, or the three that I mentioned earlier on. What we require from an enterprise or a cooperative society is not exactly what we require from a limited liability company. For instance, in the case of cooperative society, we say, give us your bylaws, your constitution. Of course, it's commonsensical and it do not apply to limited liability company. Then the nature and the type of agreed security. Maybe this is the most important factor now in determining the documentation to give effect to the security arrangements. Now there are documentation checklists available, which I'm sure the state managers usually make available to prospective customers. I will not dwell so much on this because I was told I should shorten my presentation. But a panoramic view really. For a limited liability company, usually will require that you send in a formal application letter, then your certificate of incorporation, it's a CTC of Memorandum and Articles of Association, the Form CAC 2.5, CAC 2.3, that's particulars of directors, and CAC 2.1, that's appointment of company secretary. Happily, in the last, I think just 2 months ago, the Corporate Affairs Commission, in a bid to speed up or to ease up business, has consolidated these documents into just one form. So in other words, instead of giving us this series of forms, it's just one for new companies that are incorporated. Then of course your business plan, quotations from suppliers, 8 passport photographs, if it is the big ones, that's the limited liability companies, or 4, if it is an enterprise or cooperative society. A valid means of ID, and similar, and all those documents. Now, security. If the security being proposed is landed property, we will usually require that you give us a C of O with an unexpired tenure of at least 25 years. The property should be in an urban area. Then you must pay all those ground rents and all that up to date. We will require a tax clearance certificate from the title holder, evaluation reports from one of BoI's accredited valuers. And I emphasize that. Why? We have had situations where some customers seek a loan of 50 million and is giving us their family house in the village, a mud house that is probably worth 1 million naira or less. And yet the valuation that they submit to us says that that mud house is worth 200 million. So what we did, we looked at the industry, we looked at some of the best names in the estate industry, and we say, fine, whenever we have such issues, you do valuation and then we'll look at it. Now, if the business is operating from a rented premises, we'll require that you give us evidence of your lease for the tenure of the loan. Now, some people have asked me, why? I must distinguish first and foremost, there's a difference between paying rent for 5 years and having a lease for 5 years. They are not the same thing. You could agree with your landlord that you'll be staying in that house for 5 years, but your rent payment will be annual. So we are not going to insist that you must pay your rent for the entire tenure, or at least let us have a lease for the tenure of the loan, so that implementation will not be disrupted. Now, letter of attestation from the solicitor, if it is a limited liability company or PLC, but for cooperative societies, we dispense with that. Then a board resolution authorizing the borrowing, and then of course the relevant agreements. Registered business name, this is fairly simpler. Formal application letter, the forms, the business plan, a means of ID, and I think this is a simplified. What I said about landed property applies irrespective of the status of the borrower. In other words, the kind of property, the type of property that we will accept, it may probably, the difference is probably the value of the facility.
After the whole event, the BoI General Manager SME South, Abdul Ganiyu Mohammed, and the Regional Manager Enugu, Obaro Osa, expressed their delight with the outcome of the event.
Well, I'm happy that it's all over. Normally when you plan for this event, a lot of hopes, a lot of expectations. So until the event is over, you can't really be settled. But I'm happy that I'm impressed with the attendance. I'm impressed with the audience. I'm also impressed with the feedback we received. So it's an opportunity for us to go back, take the feedbacks, and see how we can continue this culture of continuous improvement. How do we better our processes? How do we improve on a turnaround time? How do we work with government? How does government respond to some of the issues raised today? Because we're going to follow up with them to say they can respond. So that at the end of the day, there's ease of doing business. We can do more business. We can grow our balance sheet. Our customers will be happier. We'll also be happier. So it's a good session for us because we now know directly from the customers the issues and their challenges.
First of all, if you look at the attendance, it was quite overwhelming. We underestimated the crowd that will come in here, because when I came in this morning, I looked and said, are you guys sure we'll get these seats filled? But before you knew it, we had well over 400 attendees here, and that is quite impressive. And we are quite happy with the level of interaction, because you could see and hear what the participants had to say. You know, it showed that at least they believe in the bank, and they believe that the bank is here to assist them to grow.